we rule the cricket world. Now the rules seems coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. In the words of Skeng, them love chat, them no run them block. You know what? West Indies, we ran up our mouths, and a few days later, we had to take the licks, Santokie. England dusted themselves off, took the embarrassment of us chasing down 326 to win. And basically, I guess what you'd say, Santokie, is they reasserted the natural settings that you would have expected before this ODI series had started. And that's not to say that we're down. That's not to say that we don't think West Indies haven't got anything going on for themselves. But I think England just reset the levels in that second ODI.
Yeah, the jubilation we all felt on Sunday after that win in the first ODI was short-lived. And I guess, as you said, Mash, it was almost like a restoration of what we thought would happen in this series beforehand. West Indies played in that second ODI. They played like a side that could not qualify for the World Cup. It was a poor performance. And England, I felt, they didn't take it lightly losing on Sunday, and this sort of woke them up from their slumber, and they came back with a vengeance. So we're here to dissect that second ODI. Ironically, we didn't plan to do a live show straight after the ODI yesterday, because if both sides had batted out the full 100 overs, it would have ended at like 1 a.m. But West Indies' woeful batting combined with England's straightforward chase meant it actually finished about 2 hours early. So in theory, we could have done it, but we're here today. And before we get into it, if you're watching this, like, comment, subscribe, share. Our last two live videos got about 16,000 each, which are new record highs for our live shows. So let's keep the momentum going. But Mash, let's get into it then. So second ODI in Antigua. West Indies posted 202 in the first innings, and England chased it down in under 33 overs, but winning by 6 wickets. So I think it's only right, Mash, we talk about 202, about 120, 130 below par. Where do you want to start with the batting, Mash? What was sort of should we go with the positives or the negatives?
Well, we have to start with the negatives first, because
listen, I'm trying to change the perception of the Caribbean cricket podcast,
No, but we have to, though. The thing is, we're not even trying to be negatives, but when you only post 202, you have to start with what happened at the outset of the match, which is within the first, let me just go remind, was it 6 overs? It might have even been less than that. Within the first 6-7 overs, we were 23 for 4, right? Athenaeus 4, Carty duck, Hetmyer duck, King 17. And thing is, we're starting there, but there are some genuine, and we'll get on to Hope and Rutherford, which are the positives, obviously, and some other people, but there are some genuine questions to be asked, Santokie, and not to put too fine a kind of thread on it, so to speak. But before this series started, in fact, let's go back, Santokie. Before Super 50 started, I said to you, what if some of these players have a dreadful Super 50? Do you think they'll still get picked? You said they're going to still get picked, and you were right. Hetmyer and Carty in particular had dreadful Super 50s, still got picked. And I'm not saying I wouldn't have picked them. That's not the point I'm making. I'm just calling the facts as they are. This isn't about what I personally believe. I'm just giving the facts out. They're dreadful Super 50s and still got picked to come and play for West Indies. Cool, whatever. Now, both of them haven't really fired in these 2 matches. And I'm not saying we must judge them off the back of these 2 matches and we must make great pronouncements and statements off the back of these 2 matches. Carty, more so than Hetmyer, looks in a complete rut. But he looked like he was in a complete rut in Super 50. So first, Santokie, let's break it down like this. if you pick two players who aren't in form in Super 50, why would you assume they would catch form in international cricket, which is a much higher standard than our regional Super 50? So I'm actually saying this to say that I first and foremost feel sorry for Casey Carty, because he's been put in this situation. He never asked to be put in this situation. He's been put in this situation. Hetmyer is a different kettle of fish, because Hetmyer hasn't been good for the West Indies in so long that I couldn't tell you the last time Hetmyer was good for the West Indies. I genuinely couldn't tell you. But of course, we know why Hetmyer is there. But I just want to point something out to the Hetmyer fans. Shimon Hetmyer's ODI average is now 32. 32. At one point in this guy's career, I swear that average was in the mid-40s somewhere, and he was seen as like, this guy's a world beater. His average is now 32 in ODI cricket. So basically, he's Shamar Brooks then. Like, what? I'm not being negative. I'm just calling it and delivering the facts as I see it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Let's start with Casey Carty. So obviously, he hit 16 in the first ODI. This one, he only lasted 2 balls. He played at it, got edged. Just looked like he'd lost all sort of confidence and form. As you said, he's not a bad player. It's just based on the fact that the whole point of a domestic tournament, especially one that takes place just before an ODI series, is you build momentum up and you kind of pick players who stand out. And it can also work on the flip side. If you're down bad in the Super 50, you're going to carry that momentum on, and you're not going to pick yourselves up against England in an ODI series if you can't pick yourselves up against the West Indies Academy, for instance. Like, so the levels are different. So Casey Carty is also, in hindsight, it adds more. It makes it seem more ridiculous that Desmond Haynes did say we're investing in Carty after such a poor Super 50, because then it added a lot of pressure on him. So I don't know how, like we talked about this match, it's a bit of a dilemma, and Stacey Ann King mentioned this on commentary. Once you've proclaimed you're investing in the man, Carty, you can't really drop him because he's the chosen one. He's the guy that you're saying, look, I'm putting my neck on the line to back this guy. He's the guy who's going to come good. So for you to drop him, let's say they dropped him in the next ODI against England, which based on form, technically they should. If they were to drop him, it's not a good look for the selectors, because this is someone they backed. And obviously with the whole saga with Darren Bravo and everything going on, it's got added drama behind it. So there's layers to it. But I just think Carty, I just can't see how he's going to get out of this rut. We got one last ODI against England, and then we go to Australia. I can't see him regaining this form in ODI cricket in Australia, which is a very, very tough place to bat. So the selectors have kind of got themselves in a dilemma there. It'll be interesting to see if, because of how poor he has batted, especially in that last ODI, if they just decide, you know what, let's give him a break for his own benefit, or if they persist with him to sort of back themselves. 007, Casey Carty's not the top order batsman. He looks like a middle order batsman. All of Carty's runs come from batting at 5 and 6. Force him to play at 3. Yeah, so this is another thing, because especially when Afanase went early, you're bringing Carty out to face the new ball. He's not got confidence. As we know, he tends to bat slightly lower down the order. Mash, what were your thoughts about batting him so high up in this ODI?
Well, prior to the start of the first ODI, I did a quick video looking at what's the likely 11 for the ODI team, and there's people in this live right now who are on that live when I did it on about who should play in the first ODI. And what I said to people at the time was, I said, where do you put Casey Carty in the team? Because of his poor strike rate, it's actually a dilemma as to where to put him to maximize his ability. I gave 2 teams to people. In team 1, I had Casey Carty at, I think, number 5. In team 2, I said that if you make Rutherford bat 6, Carty's going to have to bat 3, which I think people can go back and watch the video. But I swear I said if Carty bats 3, I think that's probably not wise, right? But so the Casey Carty issue that they've got is, I want to pick my words correctly here, is where can we put him to accentuate his positives and hide his negatives? And some people say he doesn't belong in the top 6 at all at this particular point in time. But like I said, like Desee said, we're investing in him. So my thing is, he's allowed to fail for as long as he wants, because we're investing in the youth. So he can play in the third ODI and probably get a poor score again. It don't matter, because we're investing in the youth. But again, like I say, there's a fine line, which I don't think is as simplistic as whether he bats 3 or whether he bats 5. It shouldn't matter. That's like saying Shimron Hetmyer will suddenly get better if we put him up to number 3. Like, if you're out of form, you're out of form. It don't matter where you're batting. There's not suddenly an increase or a decrease in pressure. This is the West Indies you're playing for. Shea Hope bats at number 4. He knows that more often than not that number 4 is the same as opening when you play for the West Indies. So I'm not really here to listen to whether he should bat 3 or 5. Once you're in the West Indies team, you better get used to the fact that you might be opening more times than not, based on how often we can collapse.
Yeah, and just a final point on Carty as well. It's an unusual one because the term investing in youth, long-term investment in youth, Carty, let's not forget, he turns 27 in March. So technically he should be entering the peak of his sort of senior career coming to that age. So again, the whole investing in youth thing and giving him a clean run in the side for as long as it needs to regain form. It just looks like a poor decision in hindsight. But let's hope for West Indies' sake, Carty can regain his form. And then Mash, the second player you mentioned, the icon himself, the Don Dada, Shimron Hetmyer. He had a gap of about 2 years not playing ODI cricket at West Indies, and it really has shown. He just looks lost in the format. He doesn't really give his body language just suggests like it's like he's playing like a Sunday league game. Like he doesn't really seem to be focused or motivated like how we know. And as you said, his average has dropped, and it's weird. We're treating him at the moment like a legacy player, but he hasn't really got the legacy. So it's not like he's a Narayan or Russell that's won World Cups and stuff. Yeah, so man said hefty, Average is 9.83 in ODI since 2019. And the joke is, like Mash is finished, It's like it's 11:15 time for bed, Mash is done out. But the thing that what was wild, Mash, is for that period of 2021 to 2023, essentially a lot of West Indies fans were saying Evan Lewis and Hetmyer were the missing components in the West Indies ODI side. Hetmyer's come back averaging 9.83, and the thing with Hetmyer is he's still going to play. I don't think we're going to drop him for at least a year.
But do you know what's crazy? Do you know what's crazy? When Bravo didn't get picked, there were so many uncles in the Caribbean bringing out enough stats saying, boy, look at Bravo's records since whatever year, it's so poor. Why are we looking at Bravo? Hetmyer's average since 2019 is 9.
But you know what's wild? Nothing. You know what's wild? I don't know if you saw online, West Indies were doing a thing where they were selling the kits on like an auction site, the kits on Sunday, the ODI kits. Someone bid like £300 for Hetmyer's kit, he's like the number one thing. So that's the thing, he's got that icon legacy status, I think predominantly because of his IPL exploits. But it's just not justified for West Indies at the moment. We're giving him the royal carpet treatment. We're giving him special privileges. Because based on that form, 9.83, like you should be nowhere near the ODI side. And like we said, he's still going to play. He's going to play against Australia. He's going to play in the Australia series. I just think there's a fear amongst West Indies, coaches and backroom staff that once you drop him, he will turn his back on West Indies cricket. And he's too valuable a player based on potential to turn his back on West Indies. So there's almost a fear factor in that. But based on justification, man, Hetmyer should be nowhere near this ODI side.
Sherwin says, please stop the foolish Hetty hate. But Sherwin...
Hold on, Sherwin, because... How are we justifying? How is it Hetty hate if a man's averaging 9.83 in ODIs? Like it doesn't make any sense.
It will forever be fascinating to me in the Caribbean which players we get a bligh, which players get a bligh, and which players get enough excuses for underperformance. But fundamentally, the joke is this, Santokie. I still say that Hetty's got to be kept around the team. So as bad as that average is, I know that we can't drop Hetmyer either. So, like I say, similar like I said to Carty and Hetmyer can be given as long as. But okay, so Sherwin says this. Sherwin, you should never have started this argument. Sherwin says Hetmyer's world class. For who? For who? You must be talking about some Indian IPL team. Go and find your facts, Sherwin, and post them in the chat to show us why Hetmyer is world class. Let's be real. Hetmyer hasn't been world class for the West Indies since 2019. That was 4 years ago. You lot told me that Bravo's got no place in the West Indies team because the last time he did stuff was over 4 years ago. Hetmyer hasn't done anything for the West Indies since 2019. Why do we give him a bly that no other cricketer in the region gets? I don't understand. Or is it just a Guyanese thing to just give Hetmyer a bly? Like I don't understand. Like, come on, man. We got to call things as we see it. This ain't a friendship thing. This ain't a friendship thing. Call it as you see it. The facts are the facts. He's got to produce. He's a senior player in this team now. He's not as much as Desee wants to say youth man agenda and so on and so forth. Hetmyer is a senior international underperforming relative to ability. Come on, man. Nah, man. Nah, man.
So Mash, we've looked at the sort of two standout negatives in that batting lineup. Let's focus on at least some of the positives. I mean, it goes without saying once again, we almost sound like we're on repeat all the time. Every time we do an ODI review, Shai Hope again showing his class, some wonderful strokes, and it's weird, Mash. Like with everything falling around him, the wickets tumbling, he still played as a man who knew his game plan, very calm. It's almost as if he's in his own little bubble when it comes to ODIs, and he knows what he needs to do. What did he hit in the end? 68 or 68. Wonderful innings, and he was supported by Shafane Rutherford in the second ODI, playing the second ODI. And Mash, that's something that's good to see because we know as well, similar to Hetmyer along those lines, we know if Rutherford's got potential. We haven't seen it in West Indies colours, but that innings suggested that there is something there, Mash.
Yeah, 100%. So if we deal with Hope first, and actually, sorry, before I get to Hope, I think we just got to acknowledge the reason we started with Carty and Hetmyer is because they got ducked. Athenaeus, in fairness, got a really good ball to get rid of him. So he got cut in half by one. I think it took his glove. I can't remember. I'm trying to remember King's dismissal. Someone remind me what King did, but Athenaeus definitely got a good one. Carty flashed at a wide one and it was a good catch, and Hetmyer missed a straight one. So that's that. Now, Hope. What was impressive about Hope's innings was how easy it was. And again, we've got to state, as there's a narrative which has developed. I think I said this in the last live. There's a narrative that has developed as if these are the type of innings Hope has been playing forever and ever. Amen. People, come on, let's be real. The Hope we're seeing now is a recent development, as in within the last 12 months. And his innings in the second ODI was a reflection of that, in so much as he just serenely got to 68 or 68. He wasn't bogged down at any point. And I think Shai Hope 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, gets bogged down and then still goes on to score a century, whether in the middle or at the back end, he just gets bogged down a bit and then would go on to make like 100 off 140 balls or something like that, right? Shai Hope now just easily rotates strike and goes at a runner ball. Would we love to see him go at 110, 120 strike rate? Yes, of course we would. But he's playing with a team where he's not certain if anyone's actually going to stick with him for long enough for him to even do something like that. But that was a very underrated 68 or 68. And then, as you say, Shafane Rutherford, Tage Ram has basically said what I was about to say. Yeah, he answered my critique during Super 50 when I said that Rutherford should get selected for the West Indies ODI squad was I said I hadn't seen enough in Super 50 to suggest he can build an innings. I'd seen some let me counterattack and got an exceptional strike rate innings, but I questioned whether he'd be able to construct an innings at the highest level given the situations he would be likely to find himself in, given he plays for the West Indies. And he did. And he did. What I can't remember what it was. Was it 63 or 70 something? And he showed maturity when it was in that middle over stage, rather than resort into what we expect him to do, which is go for needless big shots. He just simply tucked it into the offside, tucked it into the leg side, and just continually rotated strike and was milking the seamers, milking the spinners for quite a while. The only disappointment was that once he passed 50, I thought there was 100 there for either him or Hope, or maybe both of them. And I think both will be disappointed because there was a point in that innings where it looked like both of them were going so comfortably that it looked like both could get 100. But after they went Santokie, the innings was wrapped up pretty quickly.
Yeah, together they posted 131 runs out of the 202 total. So that reflects that no one else really put up significant runs. And, you know, once they scored 202 all out mash, you know, you're expecting a loss there unless there was a miracle. So we'll go into England's innings now. And mash, looking at the bowling, let's start with the bowling thing. So firstly, on the last live show we did, we talked about how it was predictable that they went with 5 frontline bowlers and they didn't have another option. This time they went with our man Rutherford, who managed to get a wicket mash. So having that additional option of a 6 bowler did pay off. I do think with Rutherford bowling though, I think it's a case of he's bowled so little. I think he's bowled 6 overs in T20 internationals, and this was the first time bowling in ODIs. I think he's bowled so little in international cricket, there just wasn't enough data on him or analysis on him. So he's kind of like a surprise package. I don't think he's a long-term solution to be a 6 bowler, but I think in this scenario with not much footage of him existing bowling, and also I guess as a 6 bowler, batsmen slightly ease up mentally against you. So that was probably why he got the wicket of Will Jacks, which was an LBW, I think, but it wasn't a fantastic ball. It was kind of like a standard stock delivery from him. He seemed surprised himself he got the wicket. But Mash, just your thoughts there on utilising more than just a standard 5 frontline bowlers.
I think they were basically forced into using Rutherford. Yeah. I'd love to know if Hope said, I need to find Hope's post-match interview and see if anybody asked him about it. I wonder if it was tactical. I'm sure he'll say it was tactical, but I mean, was it? Try to remember, he turned to Rutherford before Carrier had even come on to bowl. So for him to do that suggests it was tactical, that he thought that maybe Rutherford's kind of medium-paced skiddy deliveries due to the inconsistent bounce on the pitch. I'd love to believe there was a theory behind the madness and that when Rutherford got the LBW, it was like, yes, it paid off. But even when he did and England were 116 for 4, unfortunately, Santokie, the biggest thing we achieved with the ball is we bowled Josh Buttler back into form. And
you know what? I just realised that all the wickets were taken by Guyanese, man. You know, Shepherd, Rutherford, and Booty. Listen, man.
Guyana out here.
You may be at war with Venezuela, you know, but we're taking these wickets for the West Indies. You know?
But yeah, the worrying thing, Santokie, is that Buttler just, again, very easy. Given, remember, this guy's supposed to be bang out of form. Easily moved to 58 not out. He ended the game, 58 not out from 45 balls. And this is why when people are like, oh, well, we could still win the series. And yeah, I hope we do. I kind of look at who's now in form for England. And I'm like, uh-oh. We're going to have to go some to try and stop this England team posting a very, well, if they batted first, posting a very competitive total that we would struggle to chase down, or us setting a total that England would find hard to chase down. Buttler being in form is a very, very ominous sign. But just briefly addressing another point about the bowling attack is that, again, I always warn that if you go in with 5 frontline bowlers and then only Rutherford as your 6th bowling option, what do you do if somebody gets licks? And in this match, Alzari got licks. Carrier got licks, sorry. And I think we should talk about Carrier here, Santokie. And I'd love to know what people in the chat are going to say. Carrier is either a very unlucky bowler or he's not good enough for the highest level in terms of with the ball. I'd love to know where people stand on this in the live. I'm yet to formulate my overall opinion on this, because when you watch Yannick's spells of bowling, he always bowls in every over. I think he bowls 1 or 2 beauties, and he always seems to be unlucky. He's either getting dropped, like either his chances that he's creating are being dropped, or he's just missing the outside edge, or he's just missing the stump and the batter doesn't know what's going on. But you see those other 4 deliveries, at least 2 or 3 of them are trash. And then he gets licked down as a result of it. Now, Hayden Walsh Jr. is waiting in the wings. He actually technically out-bowled Yannick Carrier in the recent Super 50, but only marginally. Where do you stand on it, Santokie? Is Yannick Carrier, should he be our frontline leg spinner?
No, I said on the last live show I didn't think he played that well in the last ODI. I don't think he's a great leg spinner purely for the reasons you said, that inconsistency. So in the comments last time, people were saying, "Oh, but he had dropped opportunities." But I was like, if you look at the majority of his deliveries, they were poor in that first ODI, and he repeated that in the second ODI. I think Hayden Walsh, he was given a chance. He didn't do well, but I think he deserves an opportunity to sort of come back in. And sort of at least rotate, see who can perform of the leg spinners, Carrier and Hayden Walsh Jr. But I just don't think Carrier's done enough to cement his spot as West Indies leg spinning option. I think Hayden Walsh Jr. at this point deserves a chance. However, like I said, I wouldn't be 100% confident Hayden Walsh Jr. can come to international level and perform well, but he deserves the opportunity based on what he done in Super 50 to get his shot again. And yeah, like you said, Carrier's a weird one. Sort of how he was shoehorned into the West Indies white ball formats, sort of came out of nowhere. And he has been inconsistent, but I just think the fact that he has been a leg spinner, which is such a rare commodity in the West Indies, have meant he's almost gone unchallenged until Hayden Walsh Jr. performed in the Super 50, because Hayden Walsh Jr. had dropped off the radar badly for the previous year. So he had no competition. And now you've got Hayden Walsh Jr., and then you've got Mansingh, but even Mansingh, we know his potential and his talent, but I feel like he's a long way off trying to stake a West Indies claim in the ODI setup for at least now. So, yeah, I'd like to see a rotation policy between Carrier and Hayden Walsh Jr., especially when you think the bilateral series we do play for the next year or so literally have no context, and we're so far away from the World Cup. You can afford to experiment with these things. Rehan, well, I think this is the thing. I think neither Carrier or Hayden Walsh Jr. are world class. I think Rehan Ahmed is world class, and you know the differences. Like he can bamboozle batsmen, the variations he has, the confidence he has with the ball. What is he, like 19 or something like that?
19. So, he's 19, cuz. So England have Adil Rashid, who is seen as a world class leg spinner, and then they have a 19-year-old youth man who's already ready to basically replace Adil Rashid when Adil isn't available or eventually retires from international cricket. Our equivalent is a 31-year-old, and in fact, Hayden Walsh might be 31 as well. So we got two 31-year-olds, neither who have been able to set the world alight at international level, but both took 20 plus wickets, whatever it was, 18, 19 wickets in our domestic tournament at like six runs apiece for their wickets. And this is a perfect example of where our domestic cricket is not setting up our players to easily transition into international cricket. Our leg spinners have to learn on the job, because I think I said in the Discord chat at one point that Hayden Walsh, Yannick Carrier bowled an over where I am certain if he bowled that over in domestic cricket, he would have got 2 wickets in the over. But in international cricket, you're not getting it that easily. And I just wonder if how much of, I don't know, this is a massive stretch because I've got no idea, but I just wonder how much of it is confidence for a leg spinner. We saw Hayden Walsh completely lose confidence in the last 18 months. And I just wonder where Yannick's game is at. When people attack him, I don't see him come back into the attack and re-dominate the batters, if you see what I mean. Once they take him down once, you're like, oh, do you see what I mean? So
I just think historically, well, at least if you're looking at the last 40 years, West Indies in the region, there's been such a scarcity of leg spinners. I just don't know, franchise-wise or territory-wise, if we know how to develop leg spinners. And that's why we don't have a high standard of leg spinners. I know we got Samuel Badri, who he sort of developed in spite of the system. He sort of came through an unorthodox route. And obviously he's someone in the region we can look up to. But generally, I just think we don't have the expertise in the region to develop world-class leg spinners. Like I said, I don't believe Carrier or Hayden Walsh Jr. They're good leg spinners. I don't think they're great world-class ones who should be at international level. And it's sort of ironic because considering how well our pitches play for spin, I don't think the technique-wise we've got anyone who can sort of, within each franchise, who can sort of develop our leg spinners. And that's why we're seeing a struggle for that role, which is so crucial in ODI cricket specifically.
Yeah, I think back to when we had Mansing on the show, and he told us that he basically paid for himself to go to India, and that's how he really developed his skill set around and confidence around his leg spin bowling. So that kind of echoes the point that you're making there. Other than that, though, we should praise the Guyanese duo. Romario Shepherd came in for a bit of criticism for his bowling in the first ODI, took the new ball again in the second ODI, and was good up front. He was good up front. I can't remember if he got the first wicket. In fact, he did. Yeah, he got Phil Salt. And he ended the match with 6 overs, 1 for 27. So only went at 4.5s. And Gudakesh Moti, like I think we said this after the first ODI, is effectively a strike bowler for us. Every time Multi bowls, I think it's fair to say, Santokie, that we know, or we should be grateful as West Indies fans, that we basically know that if Multi bowls a spell, he's taken at least, you'd be shocked if he doesn't take 2 wickets, because he's so penetrative and so nagging with his line that you almost expect him to take wickets whenever he bowls. And yeah, I just think he is a genuine strike bowler for us.
Yeah, he asks a lot of questions of batters. He puts pressures on with his consistency, which is something I feel Akil Hussain was lacking. So I feel like that's why Moti's got ahead of him. And like you said, he's reliable. He's a reliable, you know what you get from the 10 overs. He won't go for too many runs, and he'll get 2 or 3 wickets if he bowls his 10 over spell. So he's a great addition to have in that department. It's just like you said, the problem is, if Alzari and O'Shane aren't firing or aren't getting the wickets, which they're meant to as the strike bowlers in the side, it puts a lot of pressure firstly on Moti, which he's not going to be able to take that many wickets. And also it means you're unbalanced if you're relying on 5 bowlers and Shafane Rutherford, who's basically just about a part-timer. So again, problems with the balances. And so it'd be interesting to see what happens in Barbados. I'm not sure what the pitch is going to be like. Traditionally, Barbados would be more seamer friendly. So let's see how it plays like that. But Mash, would you make any changes? Are you bringing in Roston Thanos Chase in front of his home crowd for the third DI? Do you see West Indies making any changes?
So who's sat out again? Matthew Ford, Thanos,
Otley.
and Otley.
Yeah,
Otley's not playing, which is in itself is ridiculous, right? Because why did you call up 34-year-old man to just sit on the bench? Like I don't. And the thing is, Santokie, because we know we're going to go to the World Cup qualifiers in 2026, it's not like they didn't have an option to try something. So if we play the exact same team again in the third ODI, it has to be because they're like, well, we've got a chance of a series win here. We've got to play what we believe is our best side. However, this third ODI is in Barbados and you've got 2 Bajans on the bench. I just wonder if that means they have, not that they have to, but I wonder if that means if they're going to go for the hometown thing and pick at least one of them. Now, so for example, I wouldn't be upset if they replaced O'Shane Thomas with Matthew Ford. Yeah. Obviously, in terms of Ford can't get anywhere close to the speeds that O'Shane can bowl. But I think there's nothing to lose here. You might as well give Matthew Ford a game, just have a look at him, right? Yeah. I don't know if they will, but I'd have nothing against it. The second change I'd make is you have to accept that Carty looks out of nick. It's not his fault that Desmond Haynes threw all his chips in on Carty in the press conference, but the man made 16 of 39 in the first ODI and then got out for a duck, chasing one on the 7th stump line in the second ODI. If that's anyone else, you're moving them out the side, aren't you? And you're saying, you know what, you're going to have to sit this one out because clearly something's happening for you right now, which would mean that Roston has to play. Doesn't mean Roston has to bat 3. You probably rejig the order, but it would mean that Roston has to play, and it gives you a genuine 6th bowler option then, because obviously Roston could probably bowl his full complement if they needed him to. So in theory, Ford and Chase should both play, and probably Carty and O'Shane Thomas should sit. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's no changes.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised just because the series is on the line. Personally, I'd like to see Matthew Ford, see what he can do. As you said, there's nothing really on the line for us. We're going to have to go to World Cup qualifiers. So I'd like to see Matthew Ford because he's someone who will probably be critical for us at the World Cup qualifiers in 2.5 years. So I'd like to see him introduced. And yeah, I can envision Chase coming in for Carty just because of what Chase offers. But then again, you're once you've invested in Carty, you put yourself. There'll be a lot of questions after with Desmond Haynes afterwards if they obviously drop Carty, but he might be prepared to take that hit in order to try and get a series win. A few comments there was 1 or 2 comments saying Otley should come in for Carty, but that wouldn't make sense because the whole reason why Haynes said he went for Otley over Bravo was because Otley was an opener. So if they put him at 3, Otley at 3 is going to again open up a whole heap of questions, and I don't think Otley should be playing at 3 anyway. So it's interesting to see what way they go. I personally think they probably won't go with any changes just because the series is on the line, and just go with that, the best side. But I would personally like to see Matthew Ford.
Now, there's a few people who are saying, "How can you drop Thomas? He's been bowling well." So that just to clarify that, and why I'm saying Thomas is because I still wonder if they're trying to manage O'Shane Thomas. People have to remember that up until this summer, O'Shane Thomas had been in the wilderness. Man was bowling in English League cricket for I can't remember what the team's called, began with F, right? And from league cricket in England, he didn't even play any domestic cricket in the Caribbean. He went straight into the West Indies international squad against India, played no games. From there, he went to play games in Super 50 for the Leeward Islands, right? So there has to be some acknowledgement that O'Shane is still being he's still on his redevelopment pathway. So there have to be question marks about, yes, you can keep picking him, but are we trying to just pick him for the sake of picking him, or do we do what other teams would do and do things like load management and work out he's on a gradual way back? I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Technically, the load management should be for someone like for Alzari Joseph, who we seem to play until we seem to be playing Alzari Joseph like we want to bowl him down into the ground. But he's vice captain, so he has to play evidently, right? So I don't know. I just wonder if there's some kind of like load management ideas around O'Shane as well. Santokie, the thing is though, where's my diary? Let me just look at the fixtures. So this game is on Saturday, right?
And then the first
T20 is on Tuesday. But nobody knows what the T20 squad is. What's going on, Santokie?
You know what? I reckon it's definitely got something to do with, we've seen like Pooran, Holder, Akil Hussain, a lot of the guys who be in the T20 side playing in the T10 in Abu Dhabi, which finishes on Sunday. So maybe they're waiting for Sunday to kind of work out availability and who can make it. Because in theory, let's say if Pooran's playing in the T10 final on Sunday, he's not going to make it back and be ready to play T20 in Barbados on Tuesday. Like, it would take too long to fly. Like, and you wouldn't have any time to prep. I mean, you could do it physically, but I just don't think he would. So maybe because it's very unusual for them to leave it this late. We're not going to get an announcement today because it's already late. So
no, hold on. You're trying to tell me that they don't know who's in the team yet? No,
it has to be, because otherwise, why would you wait until 4 days? Like, it doesn't make any sense. We're only 4 days away from the first T20. There has to be some sort of reason why they haven't announced it.
Wait, is Rodman still in Dubai? Are they all still out there?
Yeah, it's till Sunday. So the group stage is finished tomorrow. I reckon they're basically trying to wait for...
The West Indies T20 captain is still in Dubai. We've got no team announced. We're just waiting.
Because I can't think of any other reason, Mash, other than just they want to ensure maybe the players are in Barbados before they announce it, just in case something happens while they're playing T10 or something like that.
But do you get my point though, which is that surely you've already picked your squad, and surely that means the players have to break whatever their T10 contracts are and fly back to the Caribbean, right? Isn't that what normally happens? You're like, Rodman, you're in the squad. Boy, we need you to convene in Barbados by Sunday. You need to just fly now. Do you like they surely can't be waiting for the tournament to reach the end of the group stages before they go, boy, you ready?
I was trying to think either that or they're just delaying it until the ODI series finishes and they want to just announce it straight after. But then that's ODI finishes Saturday, so you're announcing it 72 hours before the first T20. So it's a strange one, Mash. And I know yesterday I think Puran and Holder were playing yesterday in the T10, so they are still in Dubai, Abu Dhabi.
Do you know how we're gonna know who's in the T20 squad? I tell you how we're gonna know. Instagram, because we're going to see a player posting a picture at Dubai airport saying, on my way to Barbados. We'll find out from the players' Instagrams who's coming to Barbados before we find out from Cricket West Indies who's actually in the squad. That's what's gonna happen. We're just gonna have to find out that way.
Yeah, no, it's true. So yeah, it's strange it's been left this late. I'm with you. I think it's ridiculous to think they don't know who's. I think they know the squad. They definitely have to know the squad, and maybe there's just technicalities because of this thing going on so close to the T20 series starting. It's interesting, Mash, because the contracts, annual ones, started in October. We haven't heard a word. It's now December. You're assuming, based on the fact that Puran and Holder haven't played ODI since July, they didn't sign contracts and they have the freedom there. But it's very strange. The Guyana Cricket Board announced Chanderpaul and Moti had signed contracts for the first time. So they've definitely been signed, but the lack of clarity as well also leads some questions about sort of who did sign the contract and who didn't sign the contract. And that sort of affects the flexibility that we're seeing. Like, because if players are contracted, they're obliged to obviously turn down certain tournaments to play. But if a lot of players just didn't sign the contract, then that could be why we're seeing flexibility in terms of who's playing what type of tournament.
So what was interesting to me is Romario Shepherd, if I'm not mistaken, didn't he get a T10 deal? I swear I saw that he got one before that Dubai thing started.
Yeah, he did.
But he's playing for West Indies. In the press conference, Desee said that Kyle Mayers was unavailable. Mayers is in this T10 tournament. So
and
are we
as well.
Right? So and he said he didn't know where Akil Hussain was. Okay.
He needs to get Instagram, you know. He can find out very quickly.
All right, Desee needs to update the address book, boy. Man said he don't know where Akil was. These times Akil's in Dubai, right? So when you look at things like that, it makes you start speculating and going, so wait, who doesn't have a contract then? Yeah. Because do you get where I'm coming from? You wouldn't drop Mayers. So if Mayers said he's unavailable, but he's got a West Indies, if he had a West Indies contract, he's technically not unavailable. Do you get where I'm coming from? So who knows, man? And again, this just feeds into the kind of narrative, and we've spoken to stakeholders in West Indies cricket before. Things like these are own goals. Like, just announce the thing, and then it stops people speculating about what is or what isn't going on. We know the new contracts are supposed to start from October, so just announce it. I don't see what the delay is. I don't see why you have to delay it. I don't see why you wouldn't want it to be completely transparent. But we don't work for West Indies cricket. They do their own thing. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it, Santokie. I think if I had to predict, I'd say that England will win on Saturday. I think they'll take the series 2-1. But then here's a question: if you were offered a 2-1 series defeat before it started, would you have taken that?
Hard to do, because what did we do against India? Wasn't it 2-1 as well?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't have taken it just because I feel you can get one ODI win in pretty much any bilateral series just because of the nature of white ball cricket. So it's not really, I wouldn't say 2-1 would be a positive result for West Indies cricket. So no, I probably wouldn't have taken it, to be fair. Just because I think, especially with England being down bad, I know they've used different players, but as a sort of team, as a nation, they were down bad after their World Cup performances. For us to not capitalize on that, at least, and this is meant to be the beginning of our sort of refresh, reset as well, would be disappointing. But I'd also expected us to lose this series. So I wouldn't be a 2-1. I wouldn't be happy, but it would just be sort of what you'd expect going into the series, I guess.
Jav says we're winning on Saturday. Positivity.
The thing is, I think if we chase on Saturday, I think we have a better chance. We seem to do well when we chase historically. Just once you know the target and we know how game plan around that. It seems to be when we bat first, kind of set in a total, seems to be the weaker aspect. So if we chase on Saturday, who knows? But it'd be interesting to see. All up for grabs on Saturday. So we'll definitely be watching and rallying.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, like, it's a one-off game. Technically, treat it as a final and say, you know what, let's try get a morale boosting rare ODI series win against somebody who's ranked higher than us. And as much as England had their down bad World Cup tournament, their version of being down bad was still coming 7th in the World Cup or 6th or whatever it was their final position was. Our version of down bad was not even making it there and coming 13th in the World Cup qualifiers. So as much as people are saying, oh yeah, we're gonna win, let's not get this twisted. To win is still an upset. Like, yes, it's not England's complete full strength side, and yes, they're experimenting, but that would still be an upset if we're able to pull off a victory against England. But you know what? We rally as always. We rally. We wish the team the best. We hope they pull off a victory. And as ever, people, when that game is done, probably the following day, we will do a live and review and look at that series. I'll let you have the last word, Santokie.
Yeah, so as Mash said, we'll be back after the third ODI, most probably on Sunday night. We'll do another live, and we will be dropping a video in the coming days looking at the 18 tour of South Africa. We haven't forgotten about that. The last day of the final third test is tomorrow. So once that's all wrapped up, we'll be looking at the positives, negatives, and looking at who we think should make the jump up to the senior test squad. So keep an eye out for that video dropping in the coming days. As always, thank everyone for tuning in. Your comments are much appreciated. Like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Keep the Caribbean Cricket Podcast going. And we'll see you on Sunday, hopefully celebrating a series win for West Indies. So for now, have a good evening wherever you are in the world, and take care. And we'll see you on Sunday, guys. Peace.
100%. Like, share, and subscribe on your way out. We'll see you soon.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.